supply chains. Yeah. When you look at an organisation like McDonald, you know, they picked up a whole load of capability over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Very, very integrated structure there. Atkins, ditto. Capita, you know, Capita gone from 3 men in someone's bedroom to one of the largest, most capable organisations in the UK in a very short space of time, and it's been about the way in which they've engaged with their clients. But they're all taking risk, which architects and engineers traditionally have avoided. That's where we were. That's where we were 10 years ago, and that's where we've been seeking to get back to. And right now, all too often, you find that someone who was 10 years ago a builder is in the position where, you know, the smart suited consultant had been. Yeah, and a lot of things have changed. That's where we're trying to get back to, and we're trying to get back to there for a very simple reason, because we want to make more money out of what we do. Just looking at some very simple definitions. You can read them, but just straight off of Google or Wikipedia. And the Treasury. The reason I'm putting these up is, I'll just give you a little bit of time to read that second one, is because the Treasury has recognised the value of the private and the public sector working in partnership, skin in the game, the bringing in of ideas, the bringing in of incentivisation and the opportunity. Nowhere here do they say what kind of private sector organisation. And through PFI, I guess what's happened is when you talk about public sector and PPP and that kind of equity deal, everyone thinks of your typical PFI contractor. And when you look at the more modern, the more recent deal structures like LIFT, like Building Schools of the Future, and the others out there, actually, those guys, the value that they bring is in the creation of the asset up front. It's not in the 25-year deal. It's in the first 2-3 years. And so, quite often, the public sector is engaging with the wrong private sector provider because they're engaging with someone that creates the physical element as opposed to someone that's actually creating the long term. So you're kind of, I guess you're you're getting into bed with the wrong person. You know, when you're looking to create that marriage, you need to be looking at the person that you're going to be living with for 25 years, not the person that's building the house that you're living in. And what I just said then, I was going to say against this slide, so you it'll look a little bit irrelevant, but it's about the process of engagement. Where are we looking to get our money out? Where are we looking to get our rewards? Because one thing I want to emphasise here is that you talk about IRRs. I mean, IRRs on PPP deals are typically between internal rate of return. They're typically between maybe 10%, maybe 15%. Yeah, 12 to 14 was quite common on group schools PFI. Building Schools of the Future is currently around about 12%. As a partner in a consultancy business, I'd be expecting somewhere between 70 and 100% return on my working capital that I've got in the business each year and every year. So why would I put equity into a PFI deal where I'm only going to get 12%? Yeah, it just doesn't stack up. So when it's just not that attractive. So when we look at these, and when we entered into a joint venture with Alpha McAlpine and NIBC Capital Bank to go for Greenwich BSF, what we looked at was a blend of return based on the return we'd get on the resource we deploy in the various functions we'd undertake and the IRR we'd get from the PFI onto the deal. And it's looking at that blended return. And so my challenge to the previous guys around the equity in the condo development would be you've probably undersold the value of what you're creating. And I think it's absolutely fantastic that you're doing that, but how can you value your contribution so early on? And rather than taking physical space, perhaps look at taking a value of the development, a percentage of the value of the development, rather than actual physical. Because what we've experienced in looking at the return we've had, right up front, it's very difficult to value it. And looking at the percentages is a better way, because then everyone's incentive is aligned right the way through.
Well, do you mind if we ask questions along the way, or?
Please do.
I was just wondering, with the blended return, the IRR 12%, and then you're saying that you can bump that up by resource deployment or something, I think you said, meaning your own engineering teams and the different people in the vertical that you control. So that implies that you're able to, unlike the RIBA chart that we saw that had, particularly for large-scale development, something in the range of sort of between 5 and 8%, you're actually charging out as an engineer perhaps something much higher than that, because I think, were you implying that the blended return is higher than the IRR you could get?
The blend, I'll talk in generals as opposed to specifics, but a blended return would perhaps be 25%. Now, if you take something like the Building Schools for the Future opportunity, for an organisation like us, there would be an opportunity. I don't know if people are aware of the deal structure, but you've got a local education partnership, a LEP here, which is the joint venture between the private and the public sector, and we would have people deployed in that SPV. And then working for that LEP, there would be PFI SPVs, and we would have activities deployed there. The kind of things that go on down here is the commodity end of our business, so quantity surveying, condition surveys, employers agents, activities such as that. For that, you're only going to get your standard RSCS or ACE scale duties, and you're probably going to get beaten down on those. Yeah. But because you're an equity holder in the LEP, you have certainty of your place, and actually the builder here, who on the one hand is negotiating with the OBU fee levels, they're also negotiating with their equity, the consortium member, who's probably a partner of them around the board table, and they can't get rid of you actually that easily unless you don't perform, because you're sitting alongside on the top table, and the relationships become much more sophisticated. But the blended return I would be expecting would be about 25%, where you might be getting a 70% return on working capital deployed of your resource, and about 12% on your equity. Is that the answer?
That did answer the question. Thanks.
Have you looked at any of the gains that you get from actually having everyone being on the same team? I know I used to work as an engineering consultant, and if everyone's on different teams, there's a lot of inefficiencies. So having the engineers being in the same company as people at financing it and so on. Have you looked into quantifying the efficiencies and gains you get from the synergies?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not. And obviously, my background from building design partnership is a big multidisciplinary practice, very much around that single engagement ethos. The driver there was actually quality rather than money. My driver now is about value and profit, I guess. I don't actually see the essential of them being in the same organisation. What I see is the absolute need for the same teams to be deployed again and again. And what we do is we have what we call managed communities. So I have, my sector that I lead is local government education, and we segment that down, and then we break it down by locations across the world. And we have partners in each of the main activities that we work with in each of those segments and locations. And we will seek to work with those partners time and time again, because we know how they work, they know how we work, and everything is quicker and cheaper and more efficient. So we don't have to go through how our collaboration tool works versus theirs. We don't have to have that same meeting over again, arguing over whose collaboration tool we're going to use. All those savings are just there. So yeah, absolutely. But and I've got money around it. Yeah, we can track what it is. But it's kind of, if you're looking at business returns as a consultancy, my guess would be that your gross profits as a designer, my guess would be your gross profits on a project is something like 50%. based on scale fees, net around about 25%, but net as in partnership, as in business profits, possibly 5%. So if you're working with the same people time and again, it's the difference between the net and the net, if you understand what I mean. That's where you're going to make the saving, because it's the business efficiency rather than the project's efficiency. One point I wanted to stretch here was what we're now seeing around the region. Sorry,
I don't want to interrupt you. Just followed on. If you look at management consultancy firms, well, when you look at business building professionals, they tend to be viewed as a cost by the developer. When you look at management consultancy firms, who do quite a similar job in many ways, they always create a business case, and they go to the client